calls in real quick. We got John.
Shouldn't we mention the thread gills real quick or later?
That was like 11 minutes ago.
All right.
Hey, John.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm not Christian or really into. I don't believe in religion a whole lot at all. It doesn't make sense. But maybe I have the wrong idea of atheism because I don't really consider myself one.
Do you believe that there is a God?
I am not sure. So that would make me agnostic, correct?
It would make you an atheist. If you're not sure that you believe, if you're not sure that a God exists, then yeah, you're right. It would make you an agnostic atheist. You don't have a positive belief, because that's all atheism is a lack of belief in a God.
Right. A theist is somebody who does believe in God.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that belief in God, then you're atheist.
I guess you could look at it like being a Dallas Cowboys fan. You're either an actual Dallas Cowboys fan or you're not. And if you're undecided, then you're definitely in the not category.
That makes sense. Okay.
That's it.
No, we're not saying you have to go around saying you're an atheist.
No, I understand that.
A lot of people, there's a distinction. The agnostic atheist, agnostic theist. Not everybody's comfortable with labels. I mean, there's some people who would say, yeah, I'm an atheist, but I'm so uncomfortable with that label that I've decided to just call myself a bright,
right.
or a secular humanist in the case for those people. Or they choose some other label that fits it. I happen to choose atheist because I think it's the label that best describes my position on that issue. Now, I have lots of positions on other issues. I mean, I also happen to be a materialist and a naturalist, etc. But on the issue of do I or do I not believe in a God, I'm definitely an atheist.
And being an atheist doesn't mean that you know for sure now and for all time that there is no God.
Yeah.
It just means that in light of the stuff that you know now, you don't see a need to believe in the God.
Wow, okay. Well, I guess I'm an atheist.
Woohoo, convert.
Welcome to the club.
But, well, why are you guys on national, not national,
I wish we were on national TV.
We're on national podcast.
Yeah, we're on international podcast.
That's
right.
Well, why do you go out of your to show? Is it to show people like me if they are atheists?
Yeah, you're asking basically why would we come on every week to tell people that we don't believe in God?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
Because...
Well, I've never seen before, so I've never seen the show. So.
There are good reasons, and Russell will start.
Okay, yeah, I've been with the show longer than he has, even though he's
I'm the newbie.
There's actually two purposes officially to the atheist community of Austin, and one is outreach to people who would feel comfortable with an atheist group, but there aren't that many groups out there. And the other is education, which is Christians go through their lives hearing preachers tell them that atheists are godless, immoral, heathen, baby-killing scum. And we're nice guys.
Well,
well, I am.
I would say the biggest answer to why we do this every week is your call right now, because you'd never watched before and you weren't completely sure what atheism was, so you got to ask and you got an answer. And that kind of education of removing the stigma of a particular label, meanwhile being able to speak out on other issues, like if people want to be pushing their beliefs into school systems, violating the separation of church and state, then we would be opposed to that.
Wow, okay. Well, I was, I honestly, I didn't believe a word you guys said up until now. Like, I didn't, I didn't believe anything. So, I don't know. Now I'm completely different thinking.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if you didn't believe anything we said before and now you're different, well then I guess.
I'm just saying you kind of sound yourself like a Christian preacher. As what you just told me kind of came across as a Christian preacher to me from an atheist point of view, and you're doing the same thing that a Christian preacher would do.
In what way?
In what way?
Well, you were like, yes, another convert, but...
I was joking.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm just saying that, like, you come across that way, like, it came across to me that way as, like...
No, I know sarcasm doesn't come across in email, but I thought usually it comes across in voice. I got to work on that.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. But,
I was totally joking. I don't care if you're an atheist.
Having said that, I'm not opposed to converting people, if that's the word. I don't think that's the right word to use, because I as somebody who was a fundamentalist Christian for many years, I stopped believing. I embraced reason, logic, evidence, science, and realized that I care about whether or not what I believe is true. And as long as I actually care about whether or not what I believe is true, then there needs to be good justification for my beliefs. There needs to be reliable evidence, consistent evidence, nice sound arguments that support those beliefs. And that isn't true for anything supernatural, including religion. And I don't have any problem of convincing, if I convince somebody else that, hey, maybe he's right. It's not like anybody's ever proven anything supernatural exists, and this whole notion of a God is kind of silly, and we really have no proof for it, and we don't know who wrote these holy books, and nobody was alive to see what was going on, and we have scientific evidence that refutes what these books say, and they contradict themselves. Holy cow, maybe there is no God. If that kind of moment happens for somebody, I have no problem with that.
I'm on the same page with you. I've already thought there was no God. I just never thought of myself as an atheist, as you said, because when I was a young child, my preacher taught me atheist was the devil.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
See that, and that's the answer to your question of why we have the show.
Yeah, and probably proving them wrong, that we're not the devil is a big thing. But the other thing is that it's important, and in this society where you've got 75-80% Christians, and they're actively demonizing us, but also trying to enforce their beliefs and make this God's nation and a Christian nation. You got to have some opposition somewhere, and I think reality is probably the best opponent. But that's just me.
One last question before we go. I was just wondering, how many Christian radicals do you get called every week?
It varies.
It depends on who you would consider a radical.
Some weeks
somebody who just gets on there to cuss you out, basically, and tell you you're completely wrong.
We get a few of those.
Yeah.
Ignore it.
Some weeks there's quite a few, some weeks not.
Okay. All right. Well.
Thanks a lot, John. Appreciate the call.